Hello and welcome to episode number 1 of a podcast of Bronze and Iron. I am joined by my fantastic co-host, J.R. Rowley, and on this podcast, we'll be discussing A Song of Ice and Fire books, Game of Thrones, the original TV series, the Game of Thrones prequels, Norse mythology, and more. J.R., we've been talking about doing this for quite some time, and today we are really excited to talk about the return of Miguel Sapochnik for Game of Thrones Season 8. What are your thoughts on this? He's widely seen pretty much as the best director in Game of Thrones.
He's certainly the best action sequence director for Game of Thrones. I mean, Magic Miguel, man. He's pulled some
Did
great.
You just call him Magic Miguel? Well,
yes. Magic. Well, you know me. I got to give a nickname to everything and everybody. Otherwise, I forget their names. So, like the Dink. Talking about Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, the
Dink. Got the Dink. Magic Miguel, man. Can't say enough about him.
I mean, the big reason why we want to talk about him today, the reason why we want to talk about Miguel Sapochnik is we are really hype, and for good reason, because he is returning to direct 2 episodes of Game of Thrones Season 8, and these are episodes 3 and 5, which are rumored to be episode number 3, The Battle for Winterfell, and episode number 5, The Battle Against the White Walkers, and apparently Cersei and King's Landing. So a little bit of spoilers there. We apologize about that if you're not caught up to speed with the Game of Thrones Season 8 news. But the amount of time they took to film each of these episodes, the 55 nights of shooting for they even expanded the set of Winterfell for this one. Huge green screen. I believe it's one of the biggest green screens.
I think it's the largest ever made for a TV show.
Titanic Studios. Wow.
Yeah, it was in Northern Ireland.
But so that's really exciting, and for those of you who just know the episodes by name or and whatnot, Hardhome, The Winds of Winter, and of course the Battle of the Bastards, which would probably be the most prestigious winning awards. But my personal favorite of the bunch that Miguel has actually directed is I really enjoyed The Winds of Winter personally, JR. What about you for that?
I'm Battle of the Bastards on this one. What he did there was absolutely amazing. Like, as a director, I always wonder if when John comes up out of the grind, and that rebirth scene that kind of looks like the Miss Mrs. scene in with Dany.
Yeah.
That rebirth.
The ice and fire parallels that we see, the symbolism that we often see through the show. It's so different because the foreshadowing in the books, and when we see these parallels in the books, it's so much different when you have to tell it in the show. It has to be subtle. And it was like, what, 3 seasons later for this to happen too?
Yeah, 3 seasons later for that tie and that payoff. But like, as a director, like, he made you breathe in that moment. Like, how cool was that for a director? Because everybody gasped for air when John came up. I know I did. It was just like,
and the Misa scene represented life, like liberation, and then John getting liberation from almost dying. So like, they both have representation and different symbolism, which is really interesting. And that's part of the reason why I think we both really, really respect the director choices. And, I know a lot of people complain about Dan and Dave, but just on all levels, the directors, the casting and all that, but especially the directors of these episodes are just incredible, especially Magic Miguel.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, David Nutter's in the conversation too.
And he's directing 3 episodes in Game.
Yes, he is. And he's been kind of the one that pushes into the fight. Have you noticed that? Like, his is the heavy dialogue and the pushing of events forward seems to be like his forte going into the fight. So he usually has one on either end of Miguel, which is kind of fun. I thought it was kind of funny. And of course, naturally, he's the pick for 3 of the episodes, because with the 6 episodes, so you have
and then Dan and Dave are directing the actual finale of
the finale, right? Yeah. So it's going to be Nutter, Sapochnik, Dan and Dave.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't get much better than that.
And when you said like leading in the way that David Nutter directs an episode, we obviously have Miguel, and it's like very central. You feel very inside all of the minds and the perspectives of all these different characters. And that's why we love the book so much, JR, as book readers, being on all of these different perspectives, being able to see the thought process and what these people are experiencing emotionally, to have to achieve that within the show and in all these grandiose moments like the Battle of the Bastards.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost as if the directors are our POVs, you know, from the books, right?
Right. It's so interesting, right? Because like I said, the way we experience everything on the show is so different than the books.
It is the subtlety, and I think this is where Sansa gets a lot of hate, unfortunately, because her POVs in the books are inherently internal monologues, and they just don't transfer that well to show. Like everything that she goes through is basically in her head because she can't talk in King's Landing.
And that's actually, yeah, and she's actually one of my favorite characters in the books.
Mine too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get the show hate for Sansa and not understanding, but you know, it just doesn't translate that well, and Sansa gets a bad rap for it.
So let me ask you a question, JR. Does Miguel Sapochnik returning, does this give you hope that season 8 will meet our expectations? First of all, first part of the question, do you think he will deliver what he previously did? Obviously, you know, they have taken more time to really make sure they nurtured each part of the final season. And I guess the final point, I mean, is it going to be really hard to top Battle of the Bastards, Hardhome, and the Winds of Winter in season 8? I mean, I got to talk to Paula Fairfield and interview her at Con of Thrones twice now, and you know, she kind of hinted at some things in Game of Thrones season 8 that I can't really talk about on the podcast here. But do you think he's going to deliver? Because he is the one person that people really are looking at to deliver those big epic moments in Game of Thrones season 8.
I don't think there's a way that Magic Miguel can fail this one. I mean, Beats of Bologna, everyone has gotten progressively better from his episodes to episode. Like he's gotten incredible. It's gotten better every time. And the charging in the Battle of the Bastards, where Jon realizes that he falls into the trap of Ramsay, and that horse charge, and he just starts unbuckling his belt, like such a magnificent scene. And they actually he had 40 riders riding right at him. Like that was actually live action. They filmed that. You know how insane that is? So I can't wait to see what he does with, you know, kind of what we theorize needs to happen throughout the season. Because we actually, you have a video coming out here next week that's going to be about expectations for season 8. What if season 8 is the best season?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I want to create more consistency on the channel. I want to have a video series that we can kind of have some repeatability. And me and JR were talking about, and JR is actually, if you don't know, he's helping out with writing some of these episodes. We co-write these scripts, we talk back and forth, and JR is one of these people in the community that I love to bounce ideas off of. You know, obviously you guys know that I love Gemma to death, and me and Gemma do that all the time. You know, we talk about different ideas, and if all
of us do, we're always constantly talking about different things. It's really entertaining. Yeah, between you, me, Robert, Helen, Gemma, Aziz, Ashay, like we're always talking to everybody about everything.
If someone were to hack our computers and go through our conversations, you would see that it was mostly 90% Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, it would be actually pretty ridiculous.
People often ask me like, "Hey, what do you talk about? You know, about behind the scenes with your friends?" But we are really addicted. So JR, you actually have an awesome question and something that you wanted to bring up.
Coming into season 8. Well, so the principal photography at the Winterfell set was longer. It was double plus what.
Battle of the Bastards. Battle of the Bastards was 25 days, and this one was
25. Yeah, 55 days. That's right. And the largest outdoor green screen ever made on location. What do you think is going to have? Why the green screen? And two, what are you expecting out of it?
Dragon on dragon action for sure. I mean, I think the first couple episodes, the White Walkers are going to be creeping.
So we're going to be hatching some dragon eggs?
No dragon eggs. I mean, Viserion.
You said dragon on dragon action, so I just assumed they were getting a clutch of eggs.
That is something that we might have to cut out of the podcast, Jared. Just joking. No, I think that like obviously the Night King having Viserion. We don't know if this is going to happen in the books, but for show purposes, discussing this. dragon on dragon action is definitely happening. It's going to happen multiple times through Game of Thrones season 8. And obviously, like, when Dan and Dave were leading up and talking about like moments that were going to define the series, the red wedding was one of them. You know, they're like, if we can get to the red wedding, then
we got it.
You know, we know this, we can finish the series off. And obviously HBO is a great platform that they've been able to use to accomplish this. You know, HBO, I believe, has the best programming in television. But I mean, what have we been waiting for, JR? Is it dragons? I mean, is there anything is there anything more epic than dragons versus White Walkers? I don't know.
Yeah, well, okay, so I do love this theory. I don't know that I subscribe to it, but I was with the green screen. I thought to myself, okay, obviously it's going to be a Dance of Dragons, but what if? What if?
Oh, another what if? I like this.
If it's the Kings of Winter, which maybe we'll have to do an episode just about that.
I think that's fake news, JR. I'm sorry, man. I just
I want it so bad though, but yes, it is. It is kind of fake news, but I love that theory so much.
Oh, you know what? I am going to get a private message from Gemma about this one. She wants to see Ice Spiders, Kings of Winter. I think I am getting deleted from our podcast, even though I started it.
I know, right?
Gemma
does love that, and she wants it so bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things too. I mean, the scale of the battles. They like you said, they extended the part of the Winterfell set, JR.
Yeah,
really, really interesting. So we're gonna get to see parts of Winterfell that we haven't seen before. Obviously, the crypts of Winterfell. If the Night King lands with Viserion right in the middle of Winterfell, and they're doing all of these amazing shots, I think there's going to be some major characters that die in these episodes for sure.
There has to be.
I think Jorah Mormont's going to die in the Battle of Winterfell. By the way.
See, I don't think it's going to be Jorah. I think it's going to be the Hound.
No, man, dude, the Clegane Bowl has to go down. They've been setting that up.
You're right. But who's there that's book expendable?
Yeah, no, I can't agree on that one. And by the way, everyone,
Bedrick Dondarrion, man, he's going to kiss a life him.
Ooh, so you think Beric actually makes it all the way back to Winterfell? That's kind of interesting. I think Tormund for sure makes it, but yeah, I could see Beric staying back and fighting with the Night's Watch, and Dolorous Edd dying, and because I think the Night King is going to fight the Night's Watch and like eviscerate the rest of them.
Right, but I think honestly, if the Hound goes down, I think Beric has to bring him back because he keeps it. Like I was actually just rewatching season 7 here recently with a couple of my friends who hadn't seen it yet. I know it's shocking that I have friends that haven't seen it yet.
Watching the show, wow.
Yeah. So Derek and Jess and I have been catching like the episode, and the exchanges that happen between Beric and the Hound in season 7, like it's really kind of hinting towards like there's still so much more that you can do, Clegane. And
for those of you who haven't read the books, should we spoil? We'll just do a spoiler alert.
It's not really a spoiler at this point. Storm of Swords has been out since what, 2000?
So put on the earmuffs for this one. Spoiler alert. Put on the earmuffs, as Vince Vaughn would say. Beric Dondarrion gives the kiss of life to Catelyn Stark, and she becomes Lady Stoneheart. So that's definitely a thing. I do get what you're saying about Beric Dondarrion being book expendable. He does die giving the kiss of light to Catelyn, but let's actually shift the focus for a second here. The Dink, Peter Dinklage, did say that the Battle of the Bastards, that was going to pale in comparison to what we're going to see within Game of Thrones season 8. What was the exact quote, JR? I can't remember.
He said, this is going to make Battle of the Bastards seem like a family get-together. And I love the Dink's quotes on this, because a family get-together, like a Lannister family get-together, any family affairs just don't seem to end well in Westeros, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people have been trying to decipher what Tyrion was feeling after boat sex last season.
Only us would sit here and break this down, like to the facial expression of the actor when he witnesses the scene like that. We're ridiculous.
Some people think that Tyrion is going to betray Jon and Dany. I just don't see that happening personally, just because of. But anyways, we're not going to go there. This is going to be
we will rabbit hole that theory out all day long.
Yeah, I mean, we keep on getting sidetracked.
If we don't have outlines, like we could literally go on diatribes. We will start on one topic and end up in Essos talking about YT or who knows.
But Peter Dinklage isn't the only one that's been talking about this. There has been other actors and actresses. I mean, Sophie Turner has been someone that's obviously she's very active in social media, and
yeah, she's Instagram all the time.
Well, you know, of course, Liam Cunningham is someone that has been great in social media, but it seems as if, I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily going to say anything negative anyways, but I think that the general sentiment anyway, I mean, we are getting longer episodes apparently. That is something that is going to be happening. I mean, I think the battle for Winterfell is, I mean, I'm just going to go for a guess here, between 82, 83 minutes, something like that, maybe 90 minutes we'll get. And then, you know, the finale maybe of the whole series, the original Game of Thrones series will be something like probably like 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah, the finale is going to be the longest one for sure. But yeah, I think both the battles are actually probably going to run right about 90 minutes.
And we both agree that, you know, episode number 5, the White Walkers make it to King's Landing? I think they have to, right?
Well, that's funny. We have another What If video coming out about that because that involves the God's Eye.
Yes, the God's Eye. So, for those of you that don't know the new What If series, we just spoke about it a little bit earlier. We actually have Sandor Clegane. The Sandor Clegane What If is coming out on Monday. Really excited about that. That's number 1. And then we're going to have, you know, talking about Game of Thrones Season 8. What if Game of Thrones Season 8 actually crushes it and is the best season of television out there in history? Some people are saying that it's going to be. Some people that have been working on the show. Then we have an episode about Arya killing Cersei, maybe. Then we have one about what if she does. We got some pretty cool theories with that one. We're going to go over some cool things. Then we got a what if about the Isle of the Faces, and then what if about Melisandre. So there's a lot of content coming down the pipeline. I know there hasn't been a ton of videos lately, but we have been working. We have been writing.
We have been writing a lot. So so let me ask you this. Because we took a poll on it in Geek Chat, and we'll do the poll in a second. But which episode of Miguel's do you think is going to be the best one? The episode 3 or episode 5?
I think that episode 3 will be a lot like Battle of the Bastards. It'll probably be the biggest battle of the season. And then I think episode 5 will be a lot more like the Winds of Winter. So we had the Battle of the Bastards, and then we had the Winds of Winter after that. And of course, you know, I think one of my maybe top 2-3 favorite scenes in the whole series was the cold open to Cersei, the Sept of Baelor, her doing all that. I mean, the Light of the Seven piano. Oh my goodness, Ramin Djawadi set the atmosphere for that scene. And I think that is maybe the best scene that Miguel has shot. Like, I mean, it had all sorts of Godfather vibes. For those of you who have watched The Godfather, these kind of cool callbacks to other amazing scenes within, you know, television and movies. But I think that that's kind of something that we can maybe, you know, kind of overlay. I think that, you know, episode 3 will be more like Battle of the Bastards, and then episode 5 will be more like the Winds of Winter.
Interesting. Okay.
So what do you think about it? So I actually,
well, I'm going to nail you down. So pick one. You got to pick one. Either 3 or 5 is going to be the better one.
Dude, I mean, I think episode 5 is going to be the better one, and here's why. Jaime killing Cersei, that's going to happen there, or Arya killing Cersei. The Clegane Bowl. I actually think there's going to be like multiple battles happening in episode 5. I think there's going to be like Euron versus Theon, like Battle of Blackwater 2.0. There's going to be Dany and Jon versus the Night King. Then there's going to be Clegane Bowl. So I think that there's going to be like multiple things that are going to have to be have resolutions within that episode. And I think that, I mean, everything is coming to that culmination. Then, you know, obviously in the final episode, there will kind of be, you know, the cleaning up, the Dream of Spring, all of that. I think that's going to happen. There might actually still be some crazy things that happen in the final episode of the season. I could be completely wrong. Maybe like Jon fights the Night King 1v1 in like the last episode or something like that. But that's the personally why I think episode number 5 is going to be the best of season 8.
See, and I'm with you. I think 5 is going to be the reason I say 5 is going to be better. My personal view is because we know what to expect at Winterfell. At this point, being book readers and understanding, you know, some of the stuff and speculating.
Like Winterfell will fall, but it will be rebuilt probably at the end. I mean,
and you know, we kind of know what that battle's going to look like. We've had 2 battles at the Wall. We've had Hardhome. We've had Battle of the Bastards. We've had Winds of Winter. We've had, massive battle scenes. We kind of know what to expect for battles in the North because the majority of the battles have taken place there. So I'm really more looking forward to 5. And the reason is because it's all question marks.
Right. I mean, and I think a lot of character stories are going to end in that episode. I mean,
Yes.
Jaime's going to die. Cersei's probably going to die. We're probably going to see, there could be other characters that get the unexpected acts in that episode. I think when it comes down to it, there's going to be like 7 or 8 characters that survive the series. I go with the template of the cripples, bastards, and broken things. The Jon Snow, the Brienne, the Theon, those kinds of characters. The Samwell Tarleys of the world, the Tyrion, the Sansa, the ones who have went through the most suffering. I could be completely wrong though. But that's kind of the general sentiment for me. And by the way, everyone in the comment section, anyone that is listening to us right now, let us know, please, whether you think it's going to be 3 or 5. Which of these episodes do you think is going to hit home, going to hit all those marks that you're actually looking for in Game of Thrones Season 8?
Absolutely. And we took a polling on Geek Chat for it. So the Geek Chat poll revealed everybody thinks that Battle of the Bastards is going to win hands down. Like, that was number 1 pick without a doubt. And thank you, Andrew, for this suggestion of guessing which one is 3 or 5. Battle of the Bastards won out for Miguel's best episode to date.
Yeah, that one was the most popular. And, that episode has all sorts of interesting callbacks. I mean, Riders of Rohan, the Knights of the Vale coming in. There's also, Jon Snow won.
Gondor calls for aid.
Jon Snow won in Tormund, kind of like Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn.
There's some good ones.
Yeah, when they're like looking at Ramsay going back to the castle and whatnot. It was pretty interesting though. In the poll though, for episodes 3 and 5, the Battle of Winterfell edged out the Battle for King's Landing, and we don't know the episode titles.
This is just what we've started calling them for lack of not knowing. I can't. When do you think we're going to get the title drops?
Oh, dude, I think they're going to be. They're gonna keep that super close to the vest this season. They
are too.
Look at all the stuff that they have been doing to try to prevent leaks and whatnot this season. They had that little drone machine that someone can fly to shoot out drones out of the air, and apparently they've actually written multiple endings and whatnot.
They should have just hired me.
Yeah, J.R., former sniper. But I think they're both going to be great. But obviously, the Battle of Winterfell being earlier in the season, not having as much finality as the episode number 5 will have, because, like I said, a lot of people's heroes' journeys, a lot of their perspectives are probably going to end in episode 5.
Yeah, episode 5, and like we said, the big question marks are in 5 for us. Like, who's it going to be? How's it going to happen? And then that's why I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, does the Night King get defeated in episode 5? Like, does Jon die or Dany die? Like, all like the big moments. Does Arya help Sandor fight the Mountain? Is Brienne going to fight alongside Jaime? Like, all of these things. Like, do they even make it that far?
Everything we've been working for almost a decade. It's all coming down to that episode.
But they are saying that, the Battle of the Bastards, there was a tremendous amount of loss of life in that episode. And they're saying that the Battle of Winterfell, the rumor is this is going to just make the Battle of the Bastards look like a picnic. So assuming the White Walkers are probably going to actually win that battle, but then they win the Battle for King's Landing, something like that. Not really a win, but they stop it,
Yeah, I really think the battle's going to end up in the South. It's got to go that way, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm actually drinking coffee out of my Game of Thrones Night King mug, and he's a little bit too warm right now because of the coffee. He's not liking it very much, JR. So I think it ends. I think it ends up in the South as well.
Well, what kind of coffee are you drinking?
Just regular black coffee, man.
Just regular black coffee. If it was a special roast or something, like you went to Starbucks and got a Pike Place. One of my favorites from Starbucks, by the way.
A Pike Place? Is that coffee from the Iron Islands?
Ooh, right.
So one thing that we didn't mention, JR, actually, though, is Geekchat1. For those of you that don't know, JR Rowley, who is on the podcast with me, for those of you that don't know JR, started a Facebook group called Geekchat1. And you can go there, and basically it's like me, Gemma, JR, Helen, Aziz is in there, a bunch of awesome community members from A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, people that love Marvel. The Marvel Netflix series, Star Wars. Basically, there's a bunch of us that get together on Facebook. We do polls and we have all sorts of chats. We share different content creators, streams and stuff like that. JR is really good at that. I currently do not. I'm not really good at that. JR is amazing at managing this channel. But anyways, we do polls on there, and we get a lot of questions. And what we're going to do for this podcast, especially in other podcasts in the future for a podcast of Bronze and Iron, is we're going to let you kind of decide some of the, like, having a hand in some of the content that we're going to be covering here on the channel. And we think that's really important in this community. Inclusivity. We all have so many amazing opinions and thoughts and theories. And I think, two minds are better than one, especially when it comes to the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. So in the description of this video, if you do want to come join our community, please come check it out. Like, this is an open invite. We love to add new community members.
Absolutely. It's a fun place, and it just kind of came to me. It all started after Con of Thrones, really. It was my fill the gap of Con of Thrones blues.
And I think this is, we've talked quite a bit so far for our first episode. I think we've touched mainly on all the points we wanted to kind of talk about today. Is there really anything, like any major other points that we want to talk about today on the podcast, JR?
Well, yes, there is, Kyle. Let's tease the next episode.
Ooh, so one thing that we are going to be doing here on the podcast, and one thing that is super important to me and has allowed me to be to progress as a content creator is Patreon. And our next episode is actually going to be sponsored by the Iron Bank key holder for Channel Azor Hype, and that's PJ. And since Fire and Blood is coming out in 10 days, Jer.
Yep, 10 days away.
10 days away. We are going to actually release our next podcast. I believe it's on the 19th. We'll release it the day before Fire and Blood, or maybe the 18th.
No, the 18th is the release, so we'll release the 17th.
Something like that. It'll be around one of those 3 days. We're gonna do a Fire and Blood preview, and PJ is gonna ask a couple questions, and she has been an amazing supporter of the channel. So if you do want to support the channel, there's Patreon only polls, and you guys get a say in what kind of content we're gonna be creating here on the channel. So PJ, thank you so much for your support. Shout out to you, and of course, thank you for all your amazing donations on the live stream last night. We are going to be covering Fire and Blood in episode number 2 on a podcast of Bronze and Iron. What are you most excited to talk about for that?
Well, the table of contents leak, I know we've both been talking about it and scouring over it and trying to extrapolate any information that we can out of the table of contents post that George R.R. Martin made. We talk about that, and there's a lot of cool historical Targaryen stuff. There's been
a lot of art that has been released. That
art. There's been some great art that comes along with it. I want to talk about the Rogue King. That he's kind of my favorite.
I do want to give a shout out to the Super PAC, which is all the $20+ patrons on the channel. PJ of Ice and Fire, Helen, Make Mordor, Make Jin Great Again, Morley, Katrin, Karen Richmond, Aaron Habig, Andy Burnett, and also John, Mr. Skillen. I also want to give a shout out to Andy from last night, Andy Sorrell. He made, oh my goodness, I think he donated $200 during the stream. So thank you so much, man. Your generosity is amazing. If you have a question for Fire and Blood and you're listening to this, let us know. We will insert it into the next podcast for you, man. And like I said, anybody that's a supporter of the channel, if you have questions or any suggestions, we're really open to anything. We want to make sure that we are interacting with the community and getting all of your amazing thoughts. And we want to make this podcast awesome. So
yeah, and it's all conversations that start on Geek Chat or between us. And Andrew is actually the one who suggested which episode do you think is going to be better of between 3 and 5. So thank you, Andrew, for that.
Well, one thing that we haven't decided yet is actually episode number 3. But if you do sign up for Patreon, even at the $2 level, you get to participate in polls. So get on that, people. You can sign up for Patreon. And like I said, me and JR will be really active on that. Get to participate in special polls to decide what kind of content. I think we got 4 or 5 choices for that poll that have been, people have been talking and making suggestions that are really good for episode number 3. And we're always kind of trying to have like 3 or 4 ideas. We're trying to stay ahead of the game as far as content goes. So,
yeah, which is difficult sometimes because some days we find ourselves hustling to get stuff done, but we try to stay ahead of it all the time. And at the $2 level, like, you're big supporters of the channel, and it's a cup of coffee a day, guys. I mean, if you like it, if you like the content,
a cup of coffee a month is $2 a month.
Oh yeah, that's a day. Yeah, I spend more than that. But anyway.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. You go out and buy a coffee every day. Yeah.
Exactly. So exactly. So $2. Help us help y'all, man. We're here for you.
And of course, we want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know if you're excited for the return of Miguel Sapochnik, which episode you're most excited for in Game of Thrones Season 8. It doesn't have to be an episode that is directed by Magic Miguel. We're going to call Magic Miguel. That's our nickname for him. It could be any one of the episodes. Let us know. If it could be the last episode. We actually both think it's going to be titled A Song of Ice and Fire, the last episode, by the way.
Yeah.
And what do you think will be the biggest defining moments of these specific episodes number 3 and 5? And hopefully we will get Miguel Sapochnik on some prequel episodes too. So
that's the one thing we didn't talk about. But yes, I really hope they bring, because most of the workers, like all the key grips and all the people that work in Ireland, like, they're pretty much going to transfer them straight over, right? Like, they're going to pick up all the filming for the prequel.
Well, the interesting thing that they are doing is they are keeping these contacts. One thing, I know that the HBO contract that they have with these locations. So when they are trying to book these locations, they have like 7-year agreements or 5-year agreements or whatever to use these locations, right? And for Game of Thrones, we have been so lucky. Some of the most beautiful places in the world have been chosen for these filming locations. One thing that is really exciting is they actually kept their contracts with King's Landing and other locations. So especially Northern Ireland. So that is something that is really exciting that we kind of look forward to. And I'm sure there will be some kind of holdovers from the original show, but Jane Goldman and their staff will be building their own staff to try to for the Game of Thrones, for the Long Night prequel. That's the rumor title anyways.
Excellent.
But we got something a little fun. We actually, me and JR worked on it together, and a podcast of Bronze and Iron has an oath. And we're gonna end with that. Sounds good, JR?
That's it.
All right. Our oath to you is to be true.
By earth and water.
By ice and fire.
By bronze and iron.
We pledge our swords.
Our hearts and minds.
Our beer and wine.
Eat at our table.
Join our family.
Young or old.
Rich or poor.
Free with the fjord.
Free with the fjord.
Fjord.
Free with the fjord. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And we hope that you will join us back for episode 2. Skål.
Salancha.